Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This video uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. Today, we're diving deep into Jerry Coyne's Why Evolution is True. Ready to unpack how we know evolution is a fact, not just a theory.
Coyne's got fossils, genetics, and some seriously wild examples to blow your mind. He doesn't shy away from the controversy either. Coyne tackles the big questions head-on, like where do humans fit in? Does this diminish our sense of self?
All big questions.
Yeah. What he reveals is that understanding evolution actually connects us to this grand tapestry of life in a way that's awe-inspiring.
I like that.
Yeah.
Awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
So, Coyne kicks off by giving Darwin his due, but also points out where Darwin got it wrong.
He calls Darwin's theory of natural selection the greatest idea anyone ever had, and lays out these 6 core principles. But what Darwin couldn't quite figure out is how one species splits into 2. That mystery was solved much later.
Okay, so let's talk fossils. Coyne uses the fossil record to show this clear pattern. Life starting simple and becoming more complex over time. But it's not just about the progression. He talks about these things called transitional forms, fossils that show the in-between stages. It's like finding a missing link.
One of the best examples is Tiktaalik, this fishapod that has features of both fish and amphibians. It's perfectly placed between water and land animals in the fossil record, a prediction of evolution coming true.
Wow.
Right.
And then there's the tale of whales evolving from land mammals. We can literally trace their journey back to the water through fossils.
Yeah.
But fossils aren't the only proof Coyne offers. He dives into these remnants of the past we carry within us, vestigial traits.
Features that were useful to our ancestors, but not so much anymore, like the human appendix or ostrich wings. We even have vestigial genes, DNA sequences that are basically switched off. It's like finding an old rotary phone in your brand new smartphone. It tells a story.
It does. It really does. So we've got these leftover bits, but then there's embryology, the development of embryos. Coyne explains that vertebrate embryos all start out looking very similar, like tiny fish, because of our shared ancestry.
Yeah.
It's only later they develop their distinct features. It's like our development is replaying evolutionary history in fast forward.
And speaking of design, he points out all these bad design elements in nature, like the male tests being awkwardly vulnerable to hernias. This isn't intentional creation. It's evolution tinkering with what's already there.
Now let's zoom out to the global scale. Coyne talks about biogeography, how species are spread across the world. And you see this pattern that only makes sense if you consider evolution. Like, why are marsupials mostly in South America and Australia?
Turns out, fossil evidence suggests they migrated between these continents via Antarctica millions of years ago, when the land masses were connected. It's like a detective story, piecing together the history of life based on where we find fossils and living species today.
Fascinating. Oceanic islands are fascinating, too. They're missing whole groups of animals you'd expect. But the ones they do have are incredibly diverse, like the finches of Hawaii with their crazy variety of beaks. It's like each island is its own little evolution experiment.
It's clear that the distribution of species makes no sense if you believe in special creation. You need evolution to explain these patterns.
But what about evolution happening now? Not just millions of years ago.
Coyne's got us covered there, too, with some truly mind-blowing examples.
Let's hear it.
Okay, like the Japanese honeybees that have evolved this insane defense mechanism against giant hornets. They literally cook the hornet alive by swarming it and vibrating their bodies to generate heat.
Wait, they cook them? That's metal.
It is. And there's this parasitic worm that turns ants into mock fruit, manipulating them to climb up high and dangle there, looking like ripe berries, so birds will eat them. Talk about a macabre masterpiece of adaptation.
Nature can be brutal. But these examples prove that evolution isn't just a theory. It's happening all around us. And it's not just about survival either. It's about reproduction.
Right, exactly. Sexual selection is where traits evolve because they increase an individual's chances of mating, even if those traits don't directly help them survive. Think of the peacock's extravagant tail, a classic example of female choice driving the evolution of seemingly outlandish features.
Coyne also tackles the question of complexity. How could something as intricate as an eye evolve? It seems too perfect to have happened gradually.
Well, he uses computer simulations to demonstrate that even complex features can be broken down into small, adaptive steps. Each step builds on the previous one, eventually leading to the evolution of seemingly impossible structures.
It's like building a house brick by brick, each one adding to the overall structure. So we've got fossils, we've got bad design, we've got evolution happening right now. But what about speciation, the formation of new species? Darwin himself struggled to explain this fully.
That's where Coyne introduces the biological species concept. the idea that a species is a group of populations that can interbreed and produce fertile offspring. Speciation usually happens when populations are separated geographically, like by a mountain range or an ocean, preventing them from mixing their genes.
So over time, they drift apart genetically and become distinct species. But here's the thing. Coyne also gives examples of speciation happening without geographic separation, especially in plants, where they can sometimes double their chromosome number and instantly become a new species.
It's like hitting fast forward on the evolutionary process. These different ways species form just highlight how dynamic evolution is. But we've got to talk about the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the human in the room.
Finally, the chapter everyone's been waiting for, the human story.
Coyne takes us back to the discovery of the tongue's child, the first Australopithecus africanus fossil, a pivotal moment in understanding human evolution. It was a creature with a mix of ape-like and human-like traits, a glimpse into our past.
And from there, he lays out the key milestones. Bipedalism, which came before big brains, tool use, control of fire, migration out of Africa. It's a long and fascinating journey.
And even though the fossil record is incomplete, it undeniably shows this progression from ape-like ancestors to modern humans.
We're not exempt from evolution, that's for sure. But it's not just fossils. Genetics plays a huge role too.
Absolutely. While humans and chimps share a ton of DNA, there are significant differences, both in the actual sequence of genes and how those genes function. Those differences explain our unique traits. And even within humans, there's genetic variation that tells a story.
So we've got the fossil evidence, the genetic evidence. Coyne really builds a strong case. But how does he wrap it all up? What's the big takeaway?
Coyne argues that embracing evolution doesn't make us less special. It actually enhances our appreciation for the world. Understanding our connection to all life on Earth is awe-inspiring.
It's like we're not just these isolated beings. We're part of this grand interconnected story that's been unfolding for billions of years.
Exactly. And Coyne encourages us to keep asking questions, to embrace the mystery, because there's always more to learn.
You know, what I found really cool was how Coyne uses plain language, even humor, to explain these complex ideas. It never felt like a dry textbook.
He's got a knack for making the science come alive.
Yeah.
That example of the mice with different coat colors adapting to their environment.
Right, the brown mice blending in with the soil, and the pale beach mice almost invisible against the white sand dunes. It's such a clear visual of natural selection at work.
And he connects it back to the genes, showing how those differences in coat color are literally written in their DNA. It's not just a coincidence. It's evolution favoring those with the best camouflage.
It makes you wonder, what other hidden adaptations are out there, shaped by this constant interplay between genes and the environment?
Coyne also dives into the evolution of behavior, which is even more mind-boggling, like those Japanese honeybees that roast the giant hornet alive.
That example stuck with me too. Such a sophisticated defense mechanism. And it's all instinctual, driven by their genes. It makes you realize intelligence takes many forms in nature.
It challenges our assumptions about what it means to be smart.
Right, these tiny creatures with their tiny brains have evolved such complex and coordinated behavior.
Okay, but remember the parasitic worm that turns ants into mock fruit? That one was straight out of a horror movie. It just shows how brutal the struggle for survival can be and how bizarre the adaptations that result.
Nature is full of surprises. And Coyne doesn't shy away from these darker sides of evolution, but he also emphasizes the incredible diversity and interconnectedness of life.
Which brings us to speciation, the formation of new species. It's kind of mind-blowing to think that all the diversity we see today arose from a common ancestor.
Coyne dismantles the idea that speciation is somehow a problem for evolution. He shows it's a natural consequence of evolution, this branching process where populations split off and become reproductively isolated, and he lays out the evidence. From fossil records to studies of living populations, the ring species example is fascinating. You can literally see the gradual changes in traits as populations spread out around a geographic barrier.
It's like witnessing evolution in action. But Coyne also highlights that speciation can happen without physical separation, particularly in plants. They can suddenly double their chromosomes and bam! New species.
It's like evolution has a fast-forward button sometimes. All these different modes of speciation just show how dynamic and multifaceted evolution is.
And speaking of dynamic, we can't forget the human story. Coyne traces our lineage back millions of years, starting with the discovery of the tongue's child, that pivotal Australopithecus africanus fossil.
He guides us through the milestones, from bipedalism to brain expansion, tool use, control of fire. It's like watching our own evolutionary movie unfold.
And while the fossil record is incomplete, The evidence points undeniably to our descent from ape-like ancestors. We're not exempt from evolution. We're part of the same grand narrative.
And then there's the genetic evidence. Sure, we share a lot of DNA with chimps, but the differences are significant, and they explain our unique traits.
Coyne carefully addresses the concept of human races, too, emphasizing that most genetic variation exists within races, not between them.
It's a reminder that we're all more alike than different, united by our shared ancestry. But the question that always pops up is, are we still evolving?
We are. Absolutely. Coyne brings up challenges like climate change and antibiotic resistance, issues we can only understand through the lens of evolution. It gives us a framework for how life adapts, how it responds to pressure.
So it's like knowing about evolution equips us to tackle these problems, to see the interconnectedness of everything and make smarter choices for the planet.
We're not just passive bystanders. Our actions influence the course of evolution, particularly with advances in technology like genetic engineering. It's both exciting and a huge responsibility.
That's a bit mind-blowing. Honestly, we're not just shaped by evolution, we're now shaping it. So for our listeners out there, what does this all mean? Why should they care about evolution?
It's not just about memorizing facts. It's about seeing the world differently. It's humbling to recognize our place in this ancient lineage of life, but also empowering to see our capacity for consciousness, creativity, compassion, things that set us apart.
It's like understanding where we come from gives us a better starting point to figure out where we're going, both as individuals and as a species.
Coyne's book is a call to embrace wonder, to keep asking those big questions about our origins, our purpose. Science isn't about having all the answers, it's about the journey of discovery.
And honestly, his book makes that journey so engaging. It's packed with fascinating examples. It's clear, thought-provoking. I can't recommend why evolution is true enough.
It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish it. It truly changes how you see the world, how you see yourself.
You'll find a link to buy the book in the description below. And if you want more mind-expanding deep dives like this, be sure to subscribe to Mindful Moments.
We're here to help you nourish your mind on the go. Until next time, keep those minds curious and never stop exploring.